Welcome back to the Seven Living with the Planets. I am Lucy Baldwin, and today I'm going to talk about conflict and Mars magic. So, if you've watched Penetrate Radio, you know that I'm actually a big fan of conflict. I think that conflict is an incredible um, let's say relationship multiplier, intimacy multiplier, um, intimacy multiplier. So I want to talk about this and Mars magic in general because I'm big on Mars magic. I'm actually big on Mars vibes, and then I don't actually do that much Mars magic because I don't need more Mars than I already have. But I it's just, it's kind of my natural way of being. I don't know why. Um I've got I've got a Leo stellium, so I'm very sun. I've got so much sun happening. Um but let's talk about Mars. Mars is um very strategic. Mars is strategic. So Mars does not necessarily fight for no reason. I mean, an out of balance Mars absolutely will, but in balance Mars, you're not picking fights for no reason. And I've known a lot of people who were fighters, like MMA fighters, or people who were um, big in combat. And they are often the least likely people to pick a fight, in my experience. And I think that has to do with the fact that there's this confidence, there's this strategicness. It's like they don't need to prove anything because they know they can kick your ass. You know what I mean? Um, and I think that in general, in movies and TV, um, we are shown a world where conflict is almost always, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, the result of miscommunication. Maybe not almost always, but so often. And it gets annoying because it's like you can see exactly what's happening. And if you ever want to yell at the TV, it's just say just tell them what you're feeling. It is so frustrating. Uh, but it's a really important, um it's showing something that is true. I think that they overuse it, okay? I think that media overuses it, and by media, I mean, like, TV and movies overuse it because it's easy. It's an easy way of creating conflict, um, that you can then resolve, easily because, but you can make it really dramatic, right? But the thing is that, um, communication is extremely important. And we don't often associate Mars with communication, right? We think of Mercury when we think of communication. But Mercury is a trickster. So Mercury communication is great. And I love Mercury for um, you know, creating content and making art and poetry and writing a book and um people use Mercury for like contracts and things like that. I tend to lean more towards Jupiter for that stuff, honestly, because Jupiter is the law. And so contracts and Jupiter make more sense to me. But Mercury is, yeah, it is communication. Um, but conflict is very well within the main domain of Mars. And in conflict, so with Mars, Mars is again very strategic. Mars is also very austere. There's no frills with Mars. Mars is just like straight and to the point. Um, insofar as it's going to get him what he wants, right? And I think this is really, really important with conflict. I think that with conflict and with relationships, it is one of the most important things that we can do is just face what's coming up head on in a very martial way and just go to people communicate with people honestly and a little bit strategically. So, from a place of this is my truth, and you have to take into account how vulnerable you want to be, but there are levels. You can choose. You can give some context for how you're feeling without having to like turn into a puddle and give them all the dirty vulnerable details. It's really up to you. Some people use vulnerability as like a manipulation tactic. Um and and that works for some people, but some people don't, sometimes we want to be just like not sharing everything. We don't want to put everything out there. We want to, keep ourselves contained, especially depending on the nature of the conflict and who you're in a relationship with, that there's conflict. Um but the Mars approach here is so um powerful. It's really powerful to channel and to think about Mars with relation to problems that arise with people. If it's people that you really care about and there's a lot of intimacy, you're going to face that totally differently than you are with somebody who's like a colleague that you're not really friends with, but you still have to work together, or somebody who you're in a parenting relationship with, but you're broken up and you maybe fucking hate each other. But you still have to work together to raise children. So that kind of conflict is going to be handled completely differently than conflict with your best friend or your mom or your spouse. And so thinking about how we handle it. But there's a couple reasons why I love conflict, and I think Mars really helps to shine a light on these things. So the first major advantage to conflict is that it forces you to speak your truth, which I did an episode recently about the importance of your word and the value of your word and all of that. And speaking truths, I don't know, I like to think of it as like a little power boost um, to your word. Speaking truths that are sensational and challenging to speak. And that is what conflict is. It's like uh it's like an exercise ring for holding sensation and building capacity. Every time you tell somebody a hard truth, you build capacity, you build strength, and you also build that relationship. Every time you have the opportunity and you choose not to speak a truth, when there's something that's bothering you or something that's getting to you or something that's not working for you, you again, you're kind of magicking this inner inability to, unwillingness to. Um, and so there's major capacity growth that comes from being able to just deal with the intensity of, because it's scary, right? It's scary. That's why we avoid confrontation, because it is scary. But confrontation doesn't always have to be a fight. Sometimes it might be a fight. Sometimes people just cannot hear your discomfort, your dissatisfaction, your problem, whatever it is. They don't have the capacity for it. And so in those moments, the thing to understand is, oh, this person doesn't have the capacity for what I'm saying or how I'm saying it. So, what do you do now, Mars? So, what do you do now is, you always have a choice, because sometimes what we end up doing is we end up fawning and apologizing and taking responsibility for everything that happened, because the person doesn't have the capacity to take responsibility themselves for their own role in whatever it is. Um, that's a magic. That's a choice. And sometimes we maybe just need to say what we needed to say and walk away. That is hard, but that is powerful, because so often, I mean, the degree to which people are so uncomfortable with that kind of thing, because I'm talking about a scenario where, let's say you have a problem with somebody, you go to them and you're like, "Hey, I'm having this problem." And the person is like, "I can't do this right now. Like, fuck you." And they just like shut you out. Um, most people in that situation would try to make the situation better, and by better, I don't mean, like, resolve the conflict, I mean, like, just make the person like them again. Like, they liked me, I told them the truth, and now they don't like me, so I have to fix it and make them like me again by taking back the truth or whatever it is that can to, like, comfort them. And, um, this is it's an option. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, "That's not it. That's not it," because that's lying, and lying is not good for the relationship. So, um poor strategic choice in my personal opinion, because now you've relinquished power. The power dynamic has completely shifted, and the power move is to just say, okay, you're not ready to talk about this right now, and walk away, knowing that that person is going to potentially be mad at you until you resolve the thing, and you just have to be with that and sit with that, and that is uncomfortable, but my goodness, does it build capacity, because the truth is that you do not have to be liked all the time. It's hard, it's a hard thing to reckon, it's a hard thing to, like, really sit with, but this is powerful magic. This is the magic of conflict, and it is powerful, and you are building the capacity to be uncomfortable, and in doing so you are potentiating much better relationships, um, much more personal sovereignty. Because when you can sit with that and just figure out how to be okay with somebody being mad at you, um, you are giving yourself freedom. You're giving yourself freedom to behave and say and do what is true for you, without having to, like, constantly take into consideration every feeling that anyone else might have. And so Mars is can give us such power over our lives if we work with Mars in this kind of way. Um, so I'm just running through some possible scenarios of ways that conflict can happen. I actually made a whole episode on Mars and conflict, and scrapped it because I felt like I was lecturing too much about how just great conflict is. Um, but the truth is that it's good for your soul, to tell the truth, even if the truth, um, even if it's not what somebody else wants to hear. And it's good for them to receive the truth, even if it's not what they want to hear, even if it makes them uncomfortable. And some people will direct their discomfort at you, and a lot of people will realize that their discomfort isn't actually about you. It's about the discomfort of being told the truth that they didn't want to hear. And people will always project their shit onto each other, and you might whatever thing you're sharing might be you projecting your shit onto somebody else. I don't know what conflict you're having. So there are some tricks though that I do want to share. It's really good to speak about yourself. It's really not very helpful usually to, like, outright just say, like, you did this or you made me feel this or whatever. That is not conflict resolution, that's just stirring up shit, right? We want to come in with the intent, usually, like, even if we're mad, I really wanna caution you to come in with the intention to resolve whatever it is, because what I find is even if I think I hate someone, and this has happened to me before, I've had some really, really funny and just absurd experiences with this where I just, like, um, there was this one guy I used to work at Ruby Tuesday as a waitress and a bartender and a d manager and everything else, um, but mostly as a waitress, where I, had this one guy that I worked with, and I just fucking hated this guy. I just hated him so much, and everything he did just, got under my skin, and he was so annoying, um and one day, I just finally was like, "I hate you. Like, I can't fucking stand you." And I just told him that. And he was like, "Okay." And we became friends after that. Um, I just had to get it. I don't know, it was like I just had to get it off my chest, and then it was fine, and then everything was fine, and he thought he was like, "Okay," and then he kinda laughed about it, and then we became friends, and, it just worked because I just needed to tell him how much he disgusted me, you know? But then once I did, I was fine, and this happens to me with a lot of stuff, and this is also maybe just part of how I am, but it's like, sometimes I could be really mad about something for a really long time, and then once I just tell the person like, "Hey, I'm mad about this thing," um, and it doesn't even necessarily matter how they respond, but then I feel better. Like, I just feel better because I needed to tell the truth and I wasn't, and then I did and I felt better. And sometimes we need an apology or we need, whatever. And sometimes we're never going to get the apology that we need in order for that relationship to work. And so there's so much. I mean, I love interpersonal dynamics. It's a great obsession of mine. Um, and just like group dynamics and conflict resolution. But we want to, in general, come in with the desire to resolve, even if we think we hate this person and we're never going to want to be friends with them. So we want to approach it strategically to resolve it. And the way that you do that is that you talk about your experience. So like you could say something like, when you did this, I felt this way. And this, I didn't like that. That's one way of doing it. So you can like name things that they did that happened. But it's really not about what happened. It's really about how it made you feel. And now they know that kind of thing doesn't make you feel good. And what can we do about it going forward? And so this is kind of the way to come at it is um to share about your experience and just be as vulnerable as you're willing to be to this person, depending on the scenario, like I addressed earlier. And then, that doesn't work because of this. And I'd really like to resolve it. And you want to just say, like, I want to work it out. I want to figure out a way that we can, work this out. And, and maybe you want an apology and you can say, I would really like an apology. You can ask for what you want or what you need. And some people may or may not in that exact moment be ready or able or willing to work it out with you. But it is so much better to tell the truth and give people the opportunity to work it through with you than to just slowly build resentment and keep yourself in situations that don't feel good, that don't feel right. And more often than not, if you approach people from a place of like, this is how I felt, and I would like to kind of like shift how we're, operating or doing things or communicating or whatever it is. Um, most people will eventually, you can win them over to getting on board with that and not in like a, no, it was all me. I did everything wrong. That was wrong kind of a way, but in a, this is what's not working for, like, in a true way where you're telling the truth about what's not working for you. And so this is Mars. This is Mars. We are telling the truth. We are slicing through the bullshit with our sword. Slicing away the bullshit and getting to the truth and we're clearing out the junk. People, so um as a person who likes conflict and honestly, like, usually it's very sensational, it's very intense, I feel so much in my body when I'm going into it, but I just know because I've learned, because I've seen it over and over and over again, especially with friends and family and people that matter to me, people that I want to have a relationship with. When I'm able to, when I just tell them the truth and we talk about it, it makes the relationship so much stronger and so much better. And you can get better and better at it with people. And you lead the way and make it easy to follow, make it easy for them to follow by, forgiving them, but staying true to the truth. Because the other piece of this is when we don't tell people the truth and when we try to manage other people's feelings, um, which is basically what you're doing when you're not telling them the truth. You're trying to manage their feelings. You're trying to make them feel a certain way. You're trying to control how they feel, control how they respond to you. You are literally micromanaging them when you are not honest with them and when you avoid conflict. That's what you're doing. You're managing them. And so when you tell people the truth, you are respecting them. You are respecting them. Telling people hard truths, telling people your truth, telling people that they need to back off, that what they did wasn't okay, that it did not, that, these are the reasons why that can never happen again. And just being honest and true, it is a respectful thing to do. I'm, like, so mad at our culture that we consider things like this mean. It is not mean to tell the truth. It is mean to lie. It is mean to conceal the truth. It is mean to hide your truth to try to make somebody else feel good so that they'll like you, because it's actually all about you when you're doing that. It's not to protect them, it's to protect yourself from them not liking you. It's to protect yourself from the discomfort of confronting them. It's to protect yourself from potentially not, stirring the boat or causing change or wreaking havoc or offending somebody and making them not like you. It's not for them though. It's for you. And so if you respect somebody, respect them enough to be able to handle the truth, and we can get really caught up in ourselves and our beliefs about other people and how they can't handle the truth. We spend a lot of time convincing ourselves and everybody around us that each other can't handle the truth. And if you never tell the truth and nobody ever tells the truth, then nobody will ever gain the capacity to tell the truth. You learn how to, you figure it out together, because some people will take the truth as rejection and sometimes it is rejection. And that hurts, but we have to learn how to do this together. And we get better at it every time we do it. And our relationships grow stronger and better when we do it. So Mars conflict, you're not fighting for no reason. You're fighting for the relationship. Think about it like that. When you choose conflict, when you choose to open up conflict because there's something wrong that needs to be addressed, you are fighting for the relationship. And so that's the framing, coming into it with the desire to resolve it. That's the framing. And I have just found that people, even people who I just thought I could never work with this person or I could never, whatever, um, I have found that through simple honesty and a little bit of, like taking responsibility for my own role in things and being willing to look at other people's perspectives. And I mean, you really want to be able to do that stuff, but at the very least, it's like, okay, this isn't, you don't have to like dive deep, deep, deep and analyze and analyze and analyze with the other person. You just need to like speak clearly, understand what they're saying when they respond. Sometimes what they're saying is, I don't have the capacity for this right now. And sometimes they're going to say they have their own problems. And sometimes they're just going to be defensive until they're ready. And all of that is okay. It's just part of the process. So listening, speaking your truth, truly listening to the other person, and then working together to work it out from there. And sometimes that means ending a relationship. And, that's just part of it too. I mean, this is Mars that we're talking about. So sometimes things are not meant to be. And, that is okay too, because if you're in a relationship where you have to sacrifice your truth, where you can't be yourself, where you're constantly managing and micromanaging the other person and not trusting them to take care of themselves, like if you can't trust the people that you're in relationship to hear your truth, to be able to handle you and your truth, then you have to seriously consider if that's a relationship worth fighting for or not. And yeah. And that's again, it's you have to use your discernment and be strategic. And this is Mars. And so Mars is so helpful. Mars is it's so funny because, Venus is all about relationships, but Mars is the relationship multiplier, the intimacy multiplier that will make your relationships even better. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.